Yes. Good day, everyone, once again. Bukola, don't write on my screen. And then you have to mute yourself. Everyone, please. I can see Faith speaker is on. Shala, your speaker is on. Kayode, your speaker is on. Please mute. All right. So far, on my scope of performance management, out of about 8 or 9 topics that I'm expected to take you for this diet, we've just completed one, which is operating statements. So this is going to be relevant costing will be our second topic that we are going to treat. I think for Isolo, I've done some kind of introduction to relevant costing. However, I'm going to pick it all of us, just like a kind of a refresher. All right. So what do you understand by relevant cost, right? Because not all costs are relevant for the purpose of making a decision, all right? So what then is relevant costs? You can say that relevant costs are costs that are directly attributable to a particular course of action in making managerial decision. So any cost that will influence the decision that is to be taken, any costs that are directly related or attributable to the decision that is to be taken, any costs that will change as a direct consequence of the decision taken are relevant costs. All right. So usually these relevant costs have some attributes which are part of what we are going to be discussing. So I will introduce you to relevant costing. We're going to talk about the attributes or qualities, or you can also call it criteria or determinants or factors of relevant costing, right? There are some terminologies you also examiner or the syllabus expected you to know. We're also going to we'll chip in one or two things that you need to do there. Then thereafter, we then proceed to discussing the the shortcuts for determining relevant cost of material as well as the relevant cost of labor. Then once we are done with the explanation of all relevant concepts, we then begin calculations. So give and take. Today, we should be able to do at least one calculation so that in our next class, if you do additional 2 calculations, so we will be okay with that. But then we can then be talking about the next topic. But for now, let me put it down for you. So like I said, what is relevant cost? Relevant cost, these are costs that are directly attributable costs. Who is that person? I told you to always mute yourself. Chika, your speaker is on. Faith, if you disrupt my class, I will. These are costs that are directly attributable to a particular course of action as a direct consequence, of the decision taking. Okay? They are costs that will change. They are costs that will change or that will influence, or that will influence the decision, the future decision that is to be taken. All right. So any costs that will be incurred purposely in making managerial or business decision are relevant costs. Relevant costs are costs that will be incurred purposely as a result of the decision, as a result of the decision that is to be taken, or as a result of the decision taken. All right. So this is the introduction to relevant costing. Then what are the attributes? Okay. What are the attributes? All right. You can call it qualities. You can also call it factors. If you like, you can also call it determinants. Okay. Or you can also call it principles of relevant costing. Examiner can call it any name, whichever one, we are still saying the same thing. All right. So you may be asked to discuss or explain the underlying principle of relevant costing. Okay. For a cost to be relevant, the following underlying principle, okay, should be considered. Okay, should be considered. What are the underlying principles? Okay, considered. All right, let me remove principle here so that we have a short, just only one line for the heading. Okay, so what are the underlying principles? The first one, for a cost to be relevant, it must relate to the future. Also, the cost must be a cash flow. Cost must be cash flow. And 3, it must be incremental in nature. All right. Oftentimes, examiner can ask you to explain the principle of relevant costing or qualities or attributes of relevant costing. These are the things you are going to be talking about. For example, if you are asked to explain or discuss the determinants of relevant costing or relevant costs, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do, rather? The first thing you need to do is to explain the meaning of relevant cost by saying that relevant costs are costs that are directly attributable as a direct consequence of the decision taken. They are costs that change between alternatives as a result of the decision taken. The following are some of the principles of relevant costing. You then begin to analyze it. Number 1, future. Number 2, cash flow. Number 3, incremental. That is not sufficient. You can never earn your full marks. You need to explain, what do you mean by future? What is cash flow? What is incremental? All right. So let's do it one after the other. So the first one is future. Okay. So what do you mean by future? Relevant costs must relate to the future. That is, it must be futuristic. It must be futuristic in nature. All right. This means that any cost that have been incurred in the past, that is, some cost. Okay, that is, some cost are not relevant and should be ignored. Are not relevant and should be ignored. Okay, so for example, so like we said, when you talk about relevant cost, the cost must relate to the future. Who is that person making noise in my class? Who are these people? Eh? Bob, why are you making noise? Are you a new person in this class? Why are you making noise? Amarachi, why is your mic on? You are distracting me. Please stop it. If you want to ask me any question, please raise your hand. Don't put on your mic. It's distracting. Yes, future. So what we are saying here is that for a cost to be relevant, it must relate to the future. Any costs that have been incurred in the past are sunk costs. Sunk costs cannot influence the future decision that is to be taken because there's no way. I mean, you can't go back to the past for you to be able to make the future decision that you want to make. So at all time, your relevant cost must be futuristic in nature. So in a question examiner, we always give you historical cost or sunk cost or past cost. So when you see such a cost, you should know that they are not relevant because on the day of your examiner will just paint a scenario for you. So you have the responsibility to be able to deduce or to be able to identify which among the costs given to you are relevant, which one are not relevant. You see, this topic, relevant cost, is not 1 + 1 is equal to 2. It's not something you can use formula to derive. So you have to understand the underlying concept or principle. You must understand the principle. So for a cost to be relevant, it must be the cash flow. It must be the cost that has never been incurred at all. Any costs that have been incurred in the past are sunk costs. They are historical costs. So you don't use sunk costs. You don't use historical costs for the future decision that is to be taken. So that is the essence of this future. That is what is meant by future. Okay? All right. Some costs are not relevant and should be ignored. I wanted to say ignore. Ignore. All right. So that is that.
For marriage.
Because
Can't hear.
We are going to quarrel tonight. Because I don't know why you guys are disrupting my class. Why are you making noise? Simple instruction. Why are you distracting me? Zubi what? I will remove you from this class. If you make noise again in my class, I will remove you.
Apologies, sir.
You are disrupting me. We're adults now. Simple instruction. Okay, what did I use? This means that any costs that have been incurred in the past, that is some costs, are not relevant and should be ignored. Okay, that's okay. Then the second one is cash flow. All right. What do you mean by cash flow? Relevant costs must be cash item. Relevant costs must be cash item. This means that any non-cash item, this means that any non-cash item or notional cost such as depreciation, amortization, or provision, okay, should be ignored because they are not cash flow. All right. So what we are saying here is that for a cost to be relevant, it must be cash flow item. In most cases, examiner may give to you depreciation in a question. When you see depreciation, you have to ignore it. Why? Because depreciation is not a cash flow. Depreciation is not a cash flow, so and you have to ignore it. All right. So when you see it in a question under relevant cost, or even when you are solving question on capital budgeting, for example, right? Once you see a depreciation in a question, you must ignore it because it's not cash flow. All right. So that is as per cash flow. The third one, incremental. Okay. Somebody raised on the other time. I think that's Anson, right? Anson, I thought you raised hand.
Yes, sir.
Anson,
Yeah, I'm with you, sir. Yes, I was looking at
yes,
the
talk to
first
me.
line. I was looking at the first line under future. I think it's supposed to be, it must be futuristic in nature.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't include IN. Thank you. In nature.
And
You see,
also
my mind was to.
also the first sentence, the first sentence under relevant cost, while in the definition, I think it's
Okay,
supposed to be
then
cost
absolutely a particular course of.
of
Okay.
action. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Thank you for that observation. Yeah, you're correct. Thank you. I was saying it, but I was writing something else down. You see? Thank you. All right, then. Let's move on. So the next one is incremental. So what do you mean by incremental? All right. Yes, Cynthia, talk to me. Cynthia, talk to me.
Just a small typo. Relevant
Okay.
must be cash item. This means
Relevant
any non
costs.
yes.
Thank
This
you.
means any non-cash item. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
This means
Okay.
that anyone.
No worry. I understand. Yeah. This means that any non-cash item or notional cost, such as depreciation, amortization, or provision, should be ignored because they are not cash flow. Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. Maybe I should slow down when I'm typing, right? So incremental costs are costs. Okay, incremental costs are costs that change between alternatives as a direct consequence, of the decision taking. They are increase or decrease. They are increase or decrease. Okay, direct. They are increase or decrease in cost item. As a result of a particular course of action. Okay. So, for example, when you talk about incremental cost, for example, let's say we have, let me draw a table to illustrate this. Okay, then change. This is okay. All right. Let's say, for example, we have 2023, right? And then 2024. All right. Let's say a company incurs fixed costs in 2023. The fixed cost incurred is 1 million naira, or let's say 100,000 for simplicity. And in 2024, the cost has increased to 120,000. So if management is now asking that, Cynthia, right, in 2024, how much fixed cost have we incurred? All right. Of course, the cost incurred in 2024 is not 120,000. Rather, it is the change. It is the increase or decrease, all right, in the cost item that you are going to recognize for the current year. So in this case, the difference between 100,000 naira and 120,000 naira is the change, is the incremental cost. So here will be 20,000. All right, so this is what we mean by incremental cost. They are costs that change between alternatives as a result of the decision taking or as a direct consequence of the decision taking. All right, so that is incremental cost. All right, so anytime you are asked to explain the principle or attribute of relevant costing, this is what you are going to say from the beginning to what I've just demonstrated for you. Of course, you can give examples as you are discussing the concept. All right, so that is that. Now, in addition, there are some terminologies you need to get familiar with. An examiner may ask you terminologies. All right, there are some terminologies you need to get familiar with. You may be asked, all right, and you must know each of them because you don't know where examiner will come out to you. Yes, Ahmed, talk to me quickly. Ahmed.
Yeah.
Ahmed,
Yes, sir.
you raised hand.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute. I just want to confirm, we're talking about incremental in a situation where the change is actually of lesser effect. Let's say
Reduction.
from reduction, sorry, reduction. What happens?
So that would be it will be a decremental. We have incremental, we also have decremental. So that's why we said that they are incremental are costs that change between alternative as a direct consequence. It could be an increase, it could be a decrease. So if it's a decrease, it's a
Okay.
decremental. With an increase, it's an incremental cost. All right?
So it's still relevant, right?
Of course. Just a reduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Is it gift or gifty? Gifty, talk to me.
Okay, good evening, sir. My question is, why are we only recognizing the 20,000 naira, the difference as the cost for 2024?
Because that's the increments. You can see that your fixed cost has increased from 100,000 naira to 120,000 naira. So it is not 120,000 naira that was incurred in 2024. It is the addition. All right? It is the addition you are going to consider. That's why it is called incremental. Okay? Gift.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay,
All
sir.
right. All right. Then the Zoom user. What's your name then? Talk to me. What's your question?
That should be me. Pertaining the question the earlier person asked
Zoom
about this
user.
increment.
What's
Can
your
you hear
real
me?
name?
It's Chidi.
What's your Chidi? Okay. Yeah. Talk to me.
Pertaining the question the earlier person asked about this incremental cost. So are
Yeah.
you saying that if the cost is actually decremental, so instead of 120,000 for 2024, it's 80,000
Yeah.
for 2024? What exactly will
Yeah.
be the recorded relevance cost? Because since the cost
That's
reduced,
that's a reduction. All right. So when you are putting it, when you are preparing your relevant cost, that decrease is more like a saving. All right. So your cost has reduced, right? So depending on the activity that is driving it, so that will determine your explanation of what really happened. All right. Chidi.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So as we proceed, you are going to be seeing different scenario questions, the way we are going to be treating it. All right. Yes, you can lower your hand, Chidi. Then, for the terminologies, examiner can ask you to explain. Of course, severally it has been tested. Examiner may give you a scenario, right? He will now ask you, explain or discuss the following items, all right? So you must know what to do at the right time. You must understand all the cost elements, okay? So explain the following, explain the following. Let me just, for simplicity. Number one, sunk costs. Number two, incremental costs. Okay. Number three, opportunity cost. Number four, avoidable and unavoidable cost. Committed and uncommitted cost. Number next, differential cost. Okay, differential cost. So you may be asked to explain any of these cost items, and you must know what you are doing. You must know each of them. For the VI and the solo students, I've already given them this, and they have formed a note on that. So it's the same thing with you. So you have to go ahead, go and develop your notes on any of this one. I'm not going to be telling you in the class to be explaining what is sunk cost, what is incremental cost, what is avoidable, unavoidable. No, you have it in your study material. So just read it, summarize, and then write it in your notes. So that going forward, it is that your summarized note you are going to be referencing. All right. So that's what I want you to do for me. Examiner can ask you to do that. So don't say you are not aware of this. All right. Infinix, what's your name? Infinix. So the next thing we want to do is to discuss.
Sorry. My name is Esther. Sorry. I wanted to ask, based on the notes we developed yesterday, is there a difference between differential cost and incremental cost, or are they the same thing?
They are not the same. Incremental cost is a form of differential cost. They are similar, but it's a form of differential cost. Yeah.
Okay.
When you look at the definition of differential, it's similar to incremental. All right. But incremental is
Yeah.
a form of a differential cost.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Thanks.
you are welcome. Shortcuts. Let's discuss shortcuts for determining relevant costs of material. You have to pay attention to what we're about to discuss, because on the day of your exam, you are going to be given a scenario. All right, it could be a pager kind of question, it could be 2 pages, it could be more than 2 pages, right? So examiner will paint a scenario for you. Then in that particular question, you are going to be given different kinds of costs. The primary focus of relevant costing is about material and labor. How do you identify relevant cost of material? How do you identify relevant cost of labor? Every other information you are going to be given in that question will be very easy. The bottom line, the areas where students may have challenge is the ability to interpret the question in relation to relevant cost of material and labor. So if you understand the concept, if you know this shortcut, then you already know relevant costing question. You can solve any relevant costing question. So let's take it one by one. What are you supposed to do? Anytime you see material in a question, how do you treat it? That is what we want to discuss. Okay? The following line items should be critically examined. Okay, should be critically examined when determining relevant costs of material. Okay, of material, including, all right,
Sorry, I was trying to.
Sarah, how many times did I call you? Okay, we don't enter one chance today. Oh. Maybe let's say now people where we invite, you can imagine, we invited you to come and eat, and you are holding our hands. We don't experience this kind of struggle every night we normally have our virtual classes. VI Isolo, Eshoranyo, be careful. Valtor, I swear. Let's manage them. It's only today. All right. So what are the items? Number one, the items that you are going to be seeing in the scenario, in the question on that day, are the ones we want to discuss. The first one is current purchase price. Current purchase price. Number two, disposal value. Then number three, historical cost. All right. So these are the three items that relate to material. So how do you treat each of them? That's what we want to discuss. Let's start with the first one, current purchase price. Okay. So what do you mean by current purchase price? This is also known as replacement cost. They are cost, okay? They represent the price at which the item of inventory can be purchased currently in the market. When a company wants to produce, you are going to need material inputs. So because you need material, what do? You go to the market and buy. The price at which the material is purchased or bought in the market is what is known as current purchase price or replacement cost. Okay, so when you are determining relevant cost of material, if in a question, in the scenario, examiner tells you that the material is in frequent use and will be replaced, then in that case, you should know that the current purchase price should be considered. Okay, so these are the key things you need to know. So let me put it down for you. This is also known as the replacement cost. Replacement cost. It represents the amount at which the item of inventory, or raw material can be purchased currently in the market. Okay, so that is what is known as current purchase price. The current purchase price should be considered if it can be ascertained, that the material is in frequent use, and will be replaced. Okay, let me highlight it. If it can be ascertained that the material is in frequent use and will be replaced, that's the key point there. All right, but the bottom line is that once you are given current purchase price or replacement cost in a question, it means that you have to use that figure. All right, anytime in a question under relevant costing, if you can see current purchase price or replacement cost, it means it is relevant and you must use it. So examiner don't just give you current purchase price for the fun of it. It means that you have to use it. For examiner will not tell you you should use it, but you should know the right thing to do, because those scenarios will be printed for you to be able to interpret it. All right. So if in a question, examiner has told you that the material is in frequent use and will be replaced, what we are saying here is that, like I mentioned earlier, when a company wants to produce a product, you are going to need material input. You will need raw material, right? Because let's say you have been buying the raw material previously, right? The one you have in the warehouse or in your store, it will get to a point that it will be exhausted. So when you finish the one you have in the store, what do? You go to the market and buy. So the price at which you are going to buy the market, you are going to buy the material in the market, is what is known as current purchase price. So usually in that scenario, examiner will tell you that this project will require material XYZ, and this material is in frequent use and can be purchased, all right, and can be purchased at so much price currently in the market. That's the way examiner will give it to you. So you should know that you are going to use it. Oftentimes,
Thank you. I'm happy, sir.
Sarah, this is the second time I will warn you. The third time I will not repeat it again. So, at times, examiner may give to you historical cost in the question. They will tell you that material XYZ, or this project will require material XYZ. This material was purchased at 1 million naira 3 years ago. It can be purchased currently in the market at so much. So because you are told that the material was purchased 3 years ago, it means that 1 million naira is an historical cost. It's a past cost. It's a sunk cost. So you don't use the one that have been purchased before. So it is the current price that you are going to use in your calculation. So that's what you are going to do as far as current purchase price is concerned. Let's move to the second one. The second one is disposal value. Disposal value. All right. What do you mean by disposal value? This is also known as resale value, scrap value, resale value, scrap value, trading value, trading value, or net realizable value. Net realizable value. Okay. They represent, or it represents the amount at which the material held in store can be disposed, can be sold, or disposed of. All right. So that is what is known as disposal value. Like I told you earlier, let's say you purchase a material that was 1 million naira 3 years ago, right? Maybe due to over purchasing or because that material is no longer needed. What are you supposed to do with the material? You dispose it off. You purchase it with your money. So you may likely sell it at a scrap. So the amount at which you sell it is the disposal value. That is the scrap value. That is the trading value, is the resale value of the material held in store. All right. Therefore, what are you supposed to do with disposal value in a question? If you are given a disposal value, what are you supposed to do with it? So that's what we want to discuss. All right. Who is that person? Why don't you wait for me? I just pray it's not Sarah. Otherwise, I will just remove you. I've told you. So, what are you supposed to do with disposal value? All right. Disposal value generally represents, or generally, disposal value represents a saving to an organization. In a question, when you are given a disposal value, you have to treat it as a saving. You have to treat disposal value as disposal value as represents a saving. All right. So, what are you supposed to do then when you see disposal value in a question? All right. Disposal value or scrap value, disposal value represents a saving to an open. Why are you telling me? Disposal value should be considered if it can be ascertained, that the material held in store, if it can be ascertained that the material held in store is no longer needed, and will be disposed of, All right, so that is when you are going to consider disposal. Pay attention to this. Oftentimes in a question, examiner may give to you disposal value. The fact that you are given disposal value does not make it relevant, does not mean that you are going to use it. What you are going to consider as far as disposal value is concerned is that if in the question you are told that the material is no longer needed and will be disposed of. If examiner did not tell you, if you are not told the material will be disposed of or will be sold, then you don't need to do anything. You may be given disposal value of the material in store, but if you are not told that the material is going to be sold or is going to be disposed of, then you are not going to do anything. But if you are told that the material will be disposed of, then you are going to treat the cost, the amount given to you for disposal value as a saving, because disposal value represents a saving for an organization. Okay, this is what I wanted to highlight the other time before my network disappeared. All right, so it represents a saving to. So when you see disposal value in a question and you are told that it will be material will be disposed of, you have to treat disposal value as a saving. A saving will reduce your total cost. All right, it will reduce the total cost. That is the treatment of disposal value. But in a question, examiner will not call it a saving. At all times, examiner will call it. Examiner will tell you that it will be disposed of. That material will be disposed of at a cost of so much. They are going to call it a cost. But it is your responsibility to be able to deduce or to treat it as a saving in the question. It is not a cost, rather it's a saving. In fact, examiner can tell you that the material is toxic. They can use any grammar just to test your understanding. But because they have called it, the examiner has called it a cost, an average student will think that it's a cost and they will treat it as such. Whereas it's a saving. No matter the name examiner calls it for you, it has to be a saving. All right. So that saving will reduce the total cost of the project or the product that you want to determine the relevant cost. So that is the treatment of disposal value or scrap value. Next item. The next one is historical value. Historical cost. Okay, what do you mean by historical cost? This represents, why is it a saving? I can see the screen. Nathan, are you trying to say you can't see the screen? I hope you can see it now. So gifts, you are asking, why is it a saving? I explained to you the other time. This material, you already have it in the warehouse due to over purchasing. You have purchased more than required, more than needed. So the extra that you have purchased, that you have, you just keep it in your warehouse. What are you going to do with it? You are going to dispose it or you sell it. When you sell it, what will happen? You are going to receive cash flow. Money will come in. So it will be a saving. For example, sorry, pardon me. It's beyond my control for now. Let me reshare. Sorry for the break in transmission. Hopefully it will not go off again. Okay. I was trying to explain historical costs. All right. So what do you understand by historical cost? Historical cost represents the amount at which the material head in store was purchased previously. All right, let me put it down. This represents the amount at which the material head in store was purchased previously. It is also known as past cost or sunk cost. Okay. So like I mentioned in my previous example, let's say you purchase raw material, you purchase 100 kilogram of material XYZ 3 years ago at 1 million naira. So because you purchase 100 kilogram, today, if you want to undertake a project that will require the same material XYZ, all right? So the cost of the material 1 million naira 3 years ago, that is historical. Remember, we said the relevant cost must relate to the future. It must be futuristic in nature. So any past costs that have been incurred are irrelevant and should be ignored. So when you see historical cost in a question, when you see some cost in a question, or if there's any indication that the cost given to you relate to the past, then you have to ignore it. It is not relevant. You have to ignore it. So historical cost is not relevant. It's not relevant in the determination of relevance, in the determination of, or should be ignored. Historical costs should be ignored. Should be ignored in the determination of relevant costs. In the determination of relevant cost. Okay, so anywhere you see past costs, historical costs, sunk costs, they are not relevant. You have to ignore it. It must be ignored. Okay, so that's the treatment of historical cost for material. Yes, Ijoma, what's your question? Talk to me.
Good evening, sir. So, just trying to make a correction. On your historical
Okay.
cost, you said this represents the amount at which the material held in store was previously, and nothing else.
Purchased.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vato has also corrected me in the chat box. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So these are the things you need to consider anytime you want to determine relevant cost of material. You must know the treatment of current purchase price, disposal value, as well as the historical cost. Okay, you must know the treatment of each. All right, so now let's talk about shortcuts for determining relevant cost of labor. All right, as you have for material, we also have for labor. Okay. The following line items should be evaluated when determining relevant cost. Okay, relevant cost of labor. All right. Relevant cost of labor. What are the items? Number one, spare capacity. Examiner can give to you spare capacity. How do you treat it? Right? You may be given full capacity. Full capacity. All right, so let's explain each of them. Spare capacity. I just hope I'll be able to complete a question tonight. We should be able to. In the next 10 minutes, we should be done with this. Spare capacity. What do you mean by spare capacity? This is also known as idle time. This is also known as idle time or idle capacity. Capacity. It arises when an employee, remember we are talking about labor. So anytime you are referring to labor, your focus should be on employee, all right? So this arises when an employee is not fully engaged due to low volume of activity. All right. You know, it happens to almost every one of us that if you're an employee of a company or in an organization, for the entire month, you are not going to be busy for the whole month. There will be some time, there will be some downtime or low period of activity, okay, during the month. It could be maybe for like 3 days or even a week out of the 4 weeks in a month, right? Whereby you are not going to have much to do. Okay. You know, usually when you resume work, let's say, for example, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then of course you are expected to close, let's say 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., whatever the agreement you have with the company. All right. So you are supposed to work for 8 hours a day. Because there's no much of activity going on within the organization. So you may be idle for like few hours in a day, whereby you don't have much to do. And that's the period you normally use for to do your personal things, you know, or to check on your colleagues in other departments, or to do some other things because you are free during the course of that period. All right. So when you have that spare capacity, what we are saying is that because you are idle, you are not doing anything. If this company wants to execute an order, for example, you are idle for like 3 hours, and the company has received another, the company just received an order from customers that they want that will require 2 hours of your time. Therefore, because you are idle for 3 hours, out of your 3 hours, they are going to spend you are going to spend 2 hours to execute the order. So what that simply means is that you are still using part of your 8 hours in a day. It is part of that your 8 hours you are using to execute the order. Therefore, anytime you have idle time or spare capacity, relevant cost of labor is equal to 0. Nothing will be charged. Nothing will be charged. The company will not spend any money on that. The company will not incur any cost on labor. Anytime there is idle time or idle capacity, relevant cost of labor will be equal to 0. Let me put it down for you. It arises when an employee is not fully engaged due to low volume of activity. For example, assuming the normal working hours for an employee is 8 hours per day. Okay, it's 8 hours per day. And the employee currently works for 5 hours per day due to low activity or due to minimal activities. Okay. If there's a special order, special customer order that requires 2 hours of the employee's time, if there's a special customer order that requires 2 hours of the employee's time, it is the idle time, or it is part of the idle time of 3 hours that will be used to execute the order. Okay. Therefore, when there is idle time, when there is spare capacity or idle time, the relevant cost of labor is 0. Okay, is 0. That is, nothing will be charged. Nothing will be charged. So anytime in a question you are told that the company has idle capacity, or the employee or engineers have idle time, so it means that you are not, the company will not incur any cost on them. They are not paying them anything. All right. So that is the treatment of spare capacity. Okay. When there is idle time, let me bold it. Relevant cost of labor is 0. So take note of that. Take note of that. Therefore, when there is spare capacity or idle time, relevant cost of labor is 0. That is, nothing will be charged. So that's the treatment of that. The next one is full capacity. We're almost there. Full capacity. What do you mean by full capacity? This is very common to every one of us because we are salaried staff. Therefore, the salary we earn in a company or within an organization represents a fixed cost. Any fixed cost is irrelevant cost and should be ignored. All right. So come here. When you talk about full capacity, usually employees on a monthly salaries employees on a monthly salaries operates. Okay, let me put it this way. Employees on a monthly salaries operates, all right, at full capacity, or usually operates at full capacity. The salaries paid to a month, the salary paid to employees monthly is fixed in nature, of course, except there is an appraiser. When you have the appraiser, every one of us, you know, your salary is the same thing you earn every month until a particular time in the year whereby maybe there's an appraiser or a kind of a performance review, you know, whereby your salary is increased maybe by 10%, 15%, or 20%. So that means subsequently you then carry on with a new increment or with a new increase for another 1 year. So of course, for that particular year, it will remain constant. It will not change. And that's why the salary paid to an employee is a fixed cost. All right, it's a fixed cost. Okay, so the salary paid to employees monthly or on a monthly basis, let me put it that way, on a monthly basis, all right, is fixed in nature. Therefore, relevant costs at full capacity, when there is full capacity, let me put it that way. When there is, or when an employee is working at full capacity, when an employee is working at full capacity, because what we are trying to say here is that because you are working at full capacity, there is you don't have time. You are supposed to work for 8 hours in a day. Even that 8 hours is not sufficient. So you are fully engaged. So at that point in time, because you are fully engaged, so the company is not going to incur any cost on your salary. So the salary you are going to earn is fixed. Therefore, the salary paid to that employee is irrelevant. All right. So when an employee is working at full capacity, the salary paid to such an employee is irrelevant. Okay, is irrelevant. The only relevant cost, let me be faster a little bit. The only relevant cost at full capacity, will represent, the only relevant cost at full capacity will represent the cost of diverting resources, e.g., all right, examiner can tell you that, of course, you can have opportunity cost. Okay, you can have opportunity cost. You can have extra labor cost. Okay, or contribution lost, or contribution loss. All right. So these are the examples of diversion of resources, contribution. All right. Let me explain this. All right. So what we are saying in essence is that when an employee is working at full capacity, the company is not going to incur any cost on that. Why? Because the salary that the employee is going to earn is fixed. So any fixed cost is irrelevant cost. So you have to ignore the salary. However, you may be told that there will be there is a diversion of resources. For example, you have a supervisor that are supervising some employees on a particular job or task, right? So if the company has a special order to be executed, and that special order will need the time of the supervisor cannot divide himself into two, right? He has to leave one for the other. So if the supervisor decides to leave the current place of work or the current task to come and supervise this special order because of on-time delivery of the job, therefore there will be loss of productivity, because where the supervisor is currently working, he will not be there to supervise the current employee. Therefore, he has to move to come and supervise the new, to the special order. So as a result of moving from one position to another, there will be low productivity. That is diversion of resources. So that will result to low productivity. When there is low productivity, there will be contribution loss. All right? Because you can imagine if your supervisor is not available, you behave anyhow you like. You are going to feel, you are going to have a little freedom to behave the way you want. But if your supervisor is there, in fact, even if you don't have anything to do, you are going to do a kind of eye service just to show to the supervisor that you are really working, you know. But if the supervisor is not around, you feel relaxed. In fact, you can take a nap for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Or if maybe, for example, your supervisor is on vacation, is on holiday. And then, of course, in that case, you have free time to yourself, you know. So during that period, there is always low productivity. And if there is low productivity, there will be contribution loss. It can also result to opportunity cost. Remember, opportunity cost is the benefit forgone as a direct consequence of the decision taking. When you leave, okay, let's say, for example, I am a lecturer, right? I have a car. I want to explain the concept of opportunity cost. I'm a lecturer, right? Let's say I have a car. I can use my car for Uber service to generate revenue. I can also use the same car to drive myself to the center for the purpose of lecturing. So if I decide to drive myself to the center to go and lecture, that means I will not be able to earn the benefit that would have accrued to me through the Uber service. Therefore, if I want to determine the cost, my cost of lecturing, the benefits that I have lost to Uber service will be part of my cost of lecturing. That is what is known as opportunity cost. The benefit forgone as a result of taking a course of action. Okay, the benefit forgone as a result of taking a particular course of action. That is opportunity cost. All right. So when you see under full capacity, when you see opportunity cost or extra labor cost that will be incurred or contribution loss, you have to consider the only relevant cost at full capacity are the cost of diverting resources arising from opportunity cost, contribution loss, or extra labor cost that will be incurred. Of course, part of it is also overtime, all right? Because you are working at full capacity, okay? Because you are working at full capacity, you are supposed to work for 8 hours in a day. Your time is up in the evening, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. You are supposed to close, but because you have so much to do, you have special order to attend to. Therefore, the company may decide that you have to work for extra 2 hours. So if you work for extra 2 hours, that means the company will pay you for that extra. That is overtime. So the cost of overtime is relevant. You have to consider it. All right. This only happen in manufacturing, all this in Nigeria here, especially if you are working for one man business, limited liability company. If you like, work for 15 hours in a day, you are not going to be paid for any extra, nothing like overtime. Your salary is your salary. All right. So don't go and be demanding. I have to clarify that. Don't go and be demanding from your employer that, oh, Mr. Adeju once said if I work for after my closing time, if I work for extra, the company should pay me overtime. You're on your own. That's not what I said. All right, let's move on. Okay, so these are the things you need to consider. Yes, Zoom user, talk to me.
It's Chidi again. Please, the scenario you gave for contribution loss, where if a supervisor is supervising his subordinates in one particular task, then he's called to supervise another one, and that can cause contribution loss. Can that scenario also be used for opportunity cost, whereas the cost that has been lost, in supervising the second task?
Yes. Opportunity cost or contribution loss, the They are very similar, but the scenario, when you see the scenario, you will know which one is more appropriate. You can interchange it. You can either call it opportunity cost or contribution loss. So whichever way. These contribution loss, usually, if examiner wants you to use it, it is possible you may be given a kind of information that relates to sales and the variable cost, whereby you'll be able to determine the contribution between the two, the difference between the two, which is contribution. So you will know, okay, this is contribution loss. If it's an opportunity cost, you will see the way examiner will design the expression or the scenario, we carve the scenario, so you'll be able to know which one is more appropriate. So whichever one, whether opportunity cost or contribution loss, you can interchange it. They are both appropriate. Yeah. Chidi, is that fine?
Yes, thank you.
All right. But some company do pay for overtime. Of course, Zubi Ward, yes, some company pays for overtime, especially if it's a manufacturing company. All right. But all this one-man business or limited liability company, they hardly pay. But if it's a multinational, for example, well, it also depends on your role. Even in a multinational company, it depends on your role. For you to now earn extra, they believe that, especially if you are at that level, whereby your salary is BEM. You know the meaning of BEM. when you throw a stone into a bucket or a water, you see how the way you do boom. Yeah. So if your salary is that huge, right? So it is expected that to whom much is given, how much is expected. So you can't just say, let's say, for example, you are earning a salary of 3.5 million and above, and then the time is 5 o'clock in the evening, and you want to carry your bag to where? Where do you want to carry your bag to? You have to wait, especially if your manager is still around. Where do you want to go? I wait there. Even if you don't have anything to do, be playing with your computer. That's the way it works in practice. But in some companies, it will be in the agreement, all right? It will be in the agreement that if you work overtime, you are going to be paid. Yeah. So that's the Zubi word. Yeah. Some companies do pay overtime, but most of them don't pay. They want to minimize cost, and they believe that they are paying you well. So you should be able to, at any time, you should be able, when the work demand, then you should be able to perform. Okay. So now this is it. These are all the things you need to know as far as short cut for determining relevant cost of material and labor are concerned. So the next thing we want to do is to begin illustration. So it is no more than this. It is no more than this. However, let me give you exam tips before we begin to solve question. Exam tips. So what are those things you need to consider anytime you want to solve question under under relevant costing? Okay, what are those things you need to consider? The following. Okay, let me put it this way instead of the following. Let me just, because of time. Number one, let me start with square value. No, let me start with the figures. Generally, the figures given in the table, in a question, are mostly irrelevant. And should be ignored, except there is no other figure except there is no other figure other than what is given in the table. Okay. So what do I mean by this? Usually when you have question on relevant costing, right? You are going to be, in most cases, you may have a table. In that table will show you the cost item, some cost item. You can be given material XYZ or material ABC, material this, material that. You are going to be given labor costs, you'll be given depreciation, you'll be given overheads, and all of that. So most of the costs that you are going to be given in that table, you are going to ignore them. You do as if that they are not related to the question at all, because most relevant costing questions are solved from the additional information. That's another point. Most relevant costing questions are solved from the additional information provided. All right. So that is why what you have in the table is not relevant. So examiner wants you to treat it based on the way the scenario will be expressed to you in the question. All right. So you are going to be solving it scenario by scenario, bullet point by bullet point, right? So once you see the additional information, let's say, for example, you have additional information 1, examiner will paint the scenario as related to the question. So you are going to treat it the way it comes in the additional information. You go to additional information number 2. What do you have there? You read it and you treat it the way examiner has given it to you, and you treat it appropriately. So anytime you want to solve question under relevant costing, your focus should be on the additional information. Okay. All right. Focus should be shifted to the additional information. Number 3. Then number 3 is that you must at all time or always provide, if examiner, whether you are asked or not, okay, whether you are asked or not, you must provide justification for your numbers. You have to provide assumptions. You have to give the underlying assumptions in your calculation. All right, let me put it down. Always state the underlying assumptions. The underlying assumptions as related to the question, whether you are asked, whether you are required, whether you are asked, let me put it that way, or not, or whether or not you are required, let me put it that way. Whether or not you are required. Okay, whether examiner asks you or not, you have to state your assumption. Is very key. In fact, in most cases, the assumptions carry more mark than the calculation that you think you have done. If an examiner gives you, if you are given a 2 pages kind of question, your calculation may not be up to half a page. The main calculation that you are going to do may not be up to half a page. The assumption can take like 2 pages, because examiner wants you to explain each line item. How did you treat it? That's what the examiner is asking you. So if you are solving marginal costing, if you are solving relevant costing question and you just do calculation and leave the assumption, that means you are going to lose valuable cheap marks, because most of the assumptions are already there in the question. Examiner is only asking you explain how you have come about your numbers. How did you arrive at your numbers? Explain, put justification. That is the essence of assumption. So at all time, you have to state your assumption, the underlying assumptions associated with the question. You have to state it. Number next, disposal value. Disposal value should always be treated as a saving. Should always be treated as a saving. If you are told material will be disposed of at a cost, you must interpret it. You must interpret it as a saving. So, like I mentioned earlier today, usually examiner will tell you that the material will be disposed of at a cost. So it is not a cost, rather it's a saving. So it is your responsibility to interpret the information given to you as a saving. So it will be a cash inflow. That cash inflow is expected to reduce the cost, the relevant cost that you want to determine. All right, so this is what you need to do as far as disposal value is concerned. Don't go and be treating it the way examiner has called it in the question, because examiner will never call it a saving. In most 100% time, examiner will usually tell you it's a cost. So it is not a cost, rather it's a saving. So you are the one that will interpret it as a saving. If you are told, I omitted that material will be disposed of at a cost, you must interpret it as a saving, or it should be interpreted instead of you. It should be interpreted. Okay? It should be interpreted as a saving. All right. It should be. All right. So that's that. What else? If I remember other ones, I will include it. Okay. But for now, let's have an illustration. I'm not even sure I copied the question. I did not copy the question. All right. So far, any question for me? Do you have any questions so far? So these are all the explanation relating to relevant costing. So at this point, what we want to do is to start solving questions. Let's start solving questions. Let me see if I can, let me copy. Yes, is anybody talking there?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me,
Yes,
sir? Good
Rita,
evening.
go ahead.
Okay, so
Yeah,
my question basically is concerning the cost saving for disposal value. So if we are
okay.
given a disposal value, let's say the company
Yep,
is going to use the material that is no longer in use
yep,
and the disposal cost or the value is let's say 1,000 naira. So is it
yep.
that we are going to deduct it from the initial cost in which they used to buy it if it's
No,
given to show that it's a cost saving,
no.
or we just interpret it as a cost saving?
No, this is the way this is the way it works. If in a question you are given a disposal, value or scrap value, right? So the most important thing you need to do, you want to determine, we are preparing relevant costs, right? You want to prepare relevant cost or minimum price to quote. That's another thing I wanted to put down before. You are preparing a relevant cost or minimum price to quote. So what you are supposed to do in this instance is that you are going to pick the scrap value or the disposal value. You treat it as a saving. You put it in brackets. So every other cost that you are going to consider in the question will not be in bracket. It will be open. It will not be in bracket. So because you have put the scrap value in bracket, it will then reduce your total cost. So that's why we are saying it's more like a reduction in cost. So to reduce your total cost. That's essence of disposal value. All right. So let's say, for example, now you have determined relevant cost of you have determined material. You have material A and B. Material A, relevant cost of material A is 50,000. You are now told that material B is in the warehouse and it can be disposed of at 10,000 naira. Okay, because the examiner has mentioned that it will be disposed of at 10,000 naira. Therefore, if I want to determine relevant cost, my total relevant cost of material, I already have material A, let's say 50,000. That material B will be disposed of at 10,000. Therefore, I would then say 50,000 minus 10,000. That means relevant cost of material that I'm going to use is 40,000. So that's the way you are going to treat it. Is it clear now?
Yes, very clear, sir. Thank you, sir. You
You're
can
welcome.
continue.
All right. So let's have illustration. Let's have illustration. We are going to start with a simple illustration. Then in our next class, we go bigger. We go bigger. There's likely because most of all these big questions usually take time to solve because of question and answer and all of that. And I like attending to student questions so that you get it at once and you don't struggle when you meet it in the question on the day of your exam. Okay, so in this particular question that we want to treat tonight, I like to use this question as an example. I would like to use because of the requirements. All right, in this particular question, you are to prepare a report. So if you are writing a report, how do you write it? That is, so I'm using this question as an example to demonstrate when you are faced with this kind of a question, how do we treat it on the day of your exam? Okay. Now, as we are about to be solving this, I'll be teaching you the exam technique that you should adopt. All right. So in this particular question, let me see, one of you will read for us. However, when you are about to read, you are going to start from the requirements. You know, when you are given a question on the day of your exam, you must always, you should always start from the requirements, because when you start from the requirements, it will enable you to prepare your mind on what variables you should be looking out for in a question. Once you understand the requirements, as you are reading the body of the question, you'll be able to underline the key points or the variables that you are looking for you to be able to do justice to the question. All right. So that's that. So I need one of you to read for, let me even call one of those people that were distracting me earlier today. Yes, Sarah. Sarah, read for us. Sarah, are you still there?
Good evening, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. It's good to hear your sweet voice. Oh yeah, Uju Elegba.
Okay. Ojeligba Manufacturing Company PLC has approached you for some expert advice on Project X, a one-off order from overseas
Hold
for
on,
which
Sarah.
the company.
Hold on, Sarah. Please, as she's reading it, pay attention to the scenario. All those line items we have discussed so far in relation to relevant cost of material and then labor, pay attention to this scenario, whether they are related. All right? So pay attention. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry for that disruption.
Okay, a one-off order from overseas for which the company intends to tender. The cost associated with the project are as follows. Material A, 40,000. Material B, 80,000. Direct labor, 60,000. Supervision, 20,000. Overhead, 120,000. Total, 320,000. You ascertain the following. Material A is in stock and the above was the cost. Therefore, is now, okay, there is now no other use for material A other than the above project. Within the factory and it would cost 17,500 naira to dispose of. Material B would have to be ordered at the cost shown above. Direct labor cost of 60,000 naira relates to workers that will be transferred to this project from another project. Extra labor will need to be recruited to the other project at a cost of 70,000 naira. Supervision cost has been charged to the project on the basis of 1/3% of labor, 1/3 of labor cost, and will be carried out by existing staff with their normal duties. Overhead has been charged to the project at the rate of 200% on direct labor. The company is currently operating at the point above break-even point. The project will need the utilization of machinery that will have no other use of the company after the project has finished. The machinery will have to be purchased at a cost of 100,000 naira and then disposed of for 52,500 at the end of the project. The company tells you that the overseas customer is prepared to pay up to a maximum of 300,000 naira for the project, and a competitor is prepared to accept the order at that price. He also informed you the minimum that he can charge is 400,000 naira, as the above shown 320,000 naira, and this does not take into consideration the cost of the machine and profits to be taken on the project. Required. A. Cost the project for the company, clearly stating how you have arrived at your figures and giving reasons for the exclusion of other figures. B. Write a report to the company stating whether the organization should tender for the project, stating the reason why and the price, and bearing in mind that the competitor is prepared to undertake the project for 300,000 naira.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Yes, that is the question. When you look at requirement number A, about 2 or 3 things the examiner wants you to do in requirement number A. The first one is for you to cost the project. Yes, I wanted to tell you the other time. I wanted to add, I forgot. Number 5. Okay, this under 5 points you need to know. When you are required to cost a project or determine minimum price to pay, examiner is simply asking you to determine or to calculate, simply asking you to calculate relevant cost. So anytime in a question, you have to cost a project or you have to determine minimum price, okay, to be charged. So what the examiner is saying is that you should calculate relevant cost. So these are the tips you need to consider anytime you want to calculate relevant cost. Now, from these requirements, requirement number A, you have to cost the projects for the company, which means that you want to calculate relevant cost. That's the first task examiner is asking you. Secondly, you are to clearly state how you have arrived at your figures. That is, examiner wants you to provide justification, or you should state your assumptions, the reason why you have selected some figures and why you ignore the others. That's what examiner is simply asking you here. So because of time, let's quickly solve this. So I would then say solution. Let's follow through the question together. Solution. The name of this company is Ojuelegba Manufacturing Company Limited. Okay. So what are you asked to do? Examiner is asking us to cost the project for the company. All right. You want to cost the project, which means that you must calculate, you have to determine relevant cost. I would then say calculating relevant cost. When you see the scenario in the question, you will surely know this particular question relates to relevant cost. It will be there. So calculating relevant cost for project X. Remember, from the introduction of this question, it relates to project X. All right. So to do this, you are going to create 3 or 4 columns. Anytime you want to prepare your relevant costs, you create a column for description of the items, a second column for debits, then a third column for credit side. If possible, you can create additional columns whereby you are going to have serial numbers depending on the information. All right. If examiner has labeled or numbered the scenario as give additional information as given to you, so as you are solving it, you'll be listing it by additional information numbers. Okay. So let me just. I will be very fast on this so that we can finish right on time. Let me create 3 columns. Okay. I will then come here. Put on Naira on the debits, Naira on the credits. Let me shift this. So like I said, anytime you want to solve relevant costing question, you have to start from the additional information. Therefore, let's go back to the basics. Let's start from the beginning. Ordinarily, if I'm the one solving this, I will just ignore, after I've read the introduction, all right, I'll just move straight to the additional information. Remember what I told you earlier on? All the figures given in the table are mostly irrelevant, except there's no other figure other than what you are given in the table. At all time, most of all these figures are irrelevant. But if you don't have any other figure, apart from what you have here, then that is what you are going to use. However, let's start from the starts. We are told that Ojuelegba, let's follow the scenario together. Ojuelegba Manufacturing Company PLC has approached you for some expert advice on Project X, a one-off order from overseas for which the company intends to tender. The cost associated with the project are as follows. So who are you, right? We are told that the company has approached you for some expert advice on Project X. So who are you that the company has approached? Of course, the expert in this regard has to be the management accountants, because it's the management accountant that are endowed with requisite experience and exposure, all right, to be able to cost this kind of projects. Okay, so you are the management accountant is the expert. So if the company has approached you, it's because they believe that you can help them to achieve the goal that they want to achieve. So that is basically that. Then The next we are going to do is to ignore all of this. We are less concerned with what they have cost. We are told that the associated costs with the project are as follows. So these are the costs given to us relating to the project. That is not what we are going to use. All right, Chidima, be careful. Chidima, be careful. So this is what you have in this table. Just ignore it for now. You don't have anything to do with it, except there's no other figure other than that. So you then move straight to the additional information. So you are told that you ascertain the following. You as a management accountant, you ascertain these are the information given to you. So you then start from the first one. Material A is in store, and the above was the cost. This material A, the company has it in store. And what is the cost of material A? We are told that the above was the cost. That is 40,000 naira is the cost of material A. So if you have material A in store, remember, this is the time for you to apply all the principle of relevant costing. Remember, we said that relevant cost must relate to the future. It must be cash flow. It must be incremental in nature. We also talk about current purchase price. We talk about disposal value. We talk about historical cost. For labor, we talk about spare capacity and also full capacity. So when you are having a question, all of these principles, all of these concepts you must bring them to bear. You have to apply them. So now you are told that material A is in stock and the company purchases for 40,000 naira. So this material A that is in store is an historical cost, because this project X, the cost of this project X must be future cost. Any cost that have been incurred in the past is a sunk cost. Therefore, this 40,000 naira is a sunk cost and should be ignored. So it's not relevant. Further, we are told that there is now no other use for material A other than the above projects. This material A that was purchased 40,000 naira, there is no other use for that above projects within the factory, and it will cost 17,500 naira to dispose of. It means that once you are given a disposal value and you are told that it will be disposed of, it means that that historical cost is you are not going to, you have nothing to do with it. So what you are going to consider is the saving that will arise from the disposal of the material. In this case, we are told that this material A that costs 40,000 naira, they have it in the. So there is now no other use for the material A other than the above project, that is project X, within the factory, and it will cost 17,500 naira to dispose of. So once you are given that disposal value, it means that you are going to sell the material you have in store. This 40,000 naira will be disposed of for 17,500. So in this case, I will don't come here because of time. So I will just come here. Material A. Let me pull it up as material. Under material, I have material A, which is disposal value. Disposal. We may not be able to finish this question today. Wherever we should be able to do the calculation. So like I said, disposal value will represent a saving. Therefore, you then put it in bracket, because when you look at the heading of what we are doing, it is called relevant cost. What we want to determine is relevant cost. So if you don't put the disposal value of 17,500 in brackets, that means you are treating it as a cost. So to treat it as a saving, that's why you have to put it in brackets. Who is that person eating like rats? Yusuf Onikosi, you are the one making noise in my class. Doing crew like like mouse or rats. Sure, Amaja. Okay. So that's the treatment of the disposal value. Let's go back. At each time, you have to be stating your assumption so that you don't forget it. But for now, let's move on. So we have treated material A. Let's move to material B. Material B would have to be ordered at the cost shown above. Material B would have to be ordered. It means that material B is not available. They need to go and purchase it. An examiner has told you that it will cost 80,000 naira. Material B will cost 80,000 naira. So that is relevant. Let's go and put it down. Material B. Okay. 80,000. If you now want to determine total cost of material, it will be 80,000 minus 17,000, which is 62,500. You can see now our cost of material has reduced. That's why we are saying that disposal value of material will represent a saving. So that is that as per material. Let me push this one further to the front. Oh, sorry, not you. Don't waste my time. Why are you hanging? Okay. All right. So the next item, I will then go back again. So we are done with the first scenario. Let's move to the second one. We are told in this scenario number 2 that direct labor cost of 60,000 naira relate to workers that will be transferred to this project from another project. So there are some workers that are currently earning 60,000 naira, and these workers will be transferred to come and execute this job. So this 60,000 naira is irrelevant, because whether you transfer this worker or not, the company is going to pay the labor cost of 60,000. Remember, relevant costs are costs that will change as a direct consequence of the decision taken. So whether you execute this project X or not, the 60,000 naira will be paid. So since the 60,000 naira will not influence the decision that is to be taken, is irrelevant. So this 60,000, we ignore it. Now, further, you are told that extra labor will need to be recruited to the other project at a cost of 70,000. Remember, we said that the cost of diverting resources, including opportunity costs, overtime, extra labor costs, contribution loss, they are the only cost that the company will incur on labor at full capacity. So you are transferring workers to come and execute this project X. As a result of doing that, the company will need to recruit additional labor. If you recruit additional labor, you have to pay them. All right? You have to pay them. So the bottom line here is that the company is transferring some workers that earn 60,000 naira, okay, to come and execute this job. So where they are currently working, the task that they are currently working on, that place will be vacuum, and that's why the company needs to recruit extra labor to go and replace them. So this 70,000 naira is relevant. I would then come here extra labor cost. Extra labor cost 70,000. All right. Somebody send a chat. Let me quickly look at that. Okay. So material B will be current purchase price. No, it's not current purchase price. Yes, you are correct. It's current purchase price, because you are told that the material is not available and it will be purchased at the price shown above. All right. Material B would have to be ordered. What's Amarachi? You are writing on my screen. Stop it. Material B would have to be ordered at the price shown above. So it's more like current purchase price. All right. Yeah, they don't have it, so they have to go and buy. So next, the next one is supervision. Supervision cost has been charged to the project on the basis of 33 1/3% of labor costs and will be carried out by assisting staff with their normal duties. Now, when you look at the table given to you, we are given supervision cost of 20,000 naira. An examiner has told you that this supervision cost has been charged to the project on the basis of 33 1/3% of labor cost. When you look at labor cost as given to us, labor cost is 60,000. 1/3 of 60,000 is 20,000 naira. So examiner is only telling you how they arrive at the supervision cost of 20,000 naira, which is 1/3 of 60,000. But you are told further that the job will be carried out by assisting staff with their normal duty. If there's no additional cost that will be incurred, that means supervision cost is irrelevant. That 20,000 naira is irrelevant because the job will be carried out by the assisting staff. No additional cost will be incurred. So we ignore. Move to the next one. Overhead have been charged to the project at the rate of 200% on direct labor. Now, when you talk about overheads, there are two types of overheads. We have variable overhead. We also have fixed overhead. Only variable overhead is relevant. Fixed overhead is irrelevant. Right. Now, in this particular question, we are just given overhead. How much is overhead in the question? 120,000. In the table, we are given overhead of 120,000. Therefore, that 120,000 naira is irrelevant. Why? Because examiner just gave us, we are just told that overhead has been charged to a project at the rate of 200% of direct labor. Direct labor is 60,000. 200% of 60,000 is 120,000. So that's how they arrive at that 120. However, that 120,000 naira is irrelevant because we are not told whether it is fixed or variable overhead. Right? So it is assumed that this overhead of 120,000 naira is a general overheads. Therefore, you have to ignore it. It is only when you are told in a question, it is only when you are given variable overhead, only the variable overhead should be included in your calculation. Fixed overhead should be ignored. That's the treatment of overheads. Under relevant costing, when you are given variable overhead, you must consider it. If you are given fixed overhead, you have to ignore because fixed cost will not change the future decision that is to be taken. All right, only the variable overhead can influence that. So in this particular question, that 120,000 naira is irrelevant. We ignore. Next item. The company is currently operating at the point above break-even points. When you talk about break-even points is the point where revenue equate total cost. Point of no gain. Break-even point, it means it will below break-even point is a loss. So if the company is point, it means that examiner is only telling you that the company is profitable. That's what they are trying to explain there. The project will need the utilization of machinery that we have no other use. After the project has finished, okay, the machinery will have to be purchased at a cost of 100,000 naira and then disposed of for 52,500 at the end of the project. So this particular project X, the company will purchase machinery for 100,000 naira. Of course, that 100,000 naira is relevant. However, at the completion of the project, machinery will be disposed of for 52,500. Therefore, technically, how much has the incurred incurred on the machinery? It has to be different between 100,000 and then 52,500. So I will then come here. Machine utilization. Machine utilization. Okay. So you need to find the difference. All right. Under this, we have the purchase price. Purchase price. The purchase price of this machine is 100,000 naira. And we are now told that the machine will be disposed of. Disposal value. At the end of the project, the machine will be disposed of for 52,500. So you need to less. That's a saving. 52,500. So technically, how much is the company going to incur on the, how much has the company spent on machinery? It has to be different between 100,000 and 52,000. That's 47,500. That's the actual cost that will be incurred on the machinery. Next item. Let me board this one. Time is just flying like anything. So let's go back. So we have treated this paragraph. The next one, the company tells you that the overseas customer is prepared to pay up to a maximum of 300,000 naira for the project, and a competitor is prepared to accept the order at that price. It also informs you the minimum that he can charge is 400,000 naira. Okay, as the above show 320,000 naira, and this does not take into consideration the cost of the machine and profit to be taken from the project. So what the examiner is simply telling you here is that this has nothing to do with our calculation. So what the examiner is simply saying here is that the customer is willing to pay the maximum of 300,000 naira for project X, but the company is saying that they are going to incur, based on their own calculation, they are going to incur 320,000 naira as shown in our table, as shown in this table here. The customer's offer of 300,000 is lower than the cost the company say they are going to incur, right? And also in that particular paragraph, the company's competitor is willing to accept. Okay, the company's competitor is willing to accept the contract at 300,000 naira, but the company is saying that the minimum that they can charge, they can accept is 400,000, and that is why the company require your expertise as a management accountant to cost the project and then advise on the next course of action that the company should take. That's all. So at this point, no other. All this, the last paragraph, there is you don't need anything to do there as far as calculation is concerned. So you can only use that information for writing your report. So at this point, I then need to determine my total relevant cost. That's all you need. You can see as big as the question. Look at our solution here. So I will then come here. Somebody should add up the figures for me. So this is total relevant cost. What do you have as the total?
180,000.
180,000. That's it. That's the cost of project X. This is the cost that the company will incur on project X. So that's that. Finally, this is where we are going to stop. Well, let's state our assumption quickly. All right. So I'll then come here. Assumption. Remember what I told you. Whether examiner asks you or not, you have to state your assumptions. All right. Assumptions. You then say the calculation above is based on the following underlying assumptions. All right. Then begin to treat it one after the other. How did you come about your numbers? How did you treat the figures? So when you are stating your assumption, pay attention, please. Assumption is not something you are going to fabricate. It's already there in the question. Line item by line item. From this additional information, you are going to be, how did you treat each information given to you? That's what the examiner is asking. So we started with material A. In this particular paragraph, we have material A and material B. We ignore 40,000 naira for material A. We use 60,000 naira for material B, sorry, 80,000 naira for material B. The disposal value of 17,500 naira, we also consider it. So you have to summarize your info, your assumption in that regard. So how did you treat that paragraph? That's what we want to do. All right. So I will then come here. Number 1, material. Ahmed, you are writing on my screen. Be careful. Material. So then say the cost of material A. The cost of material A of 40,000 naira is a sunk cost. You have to call it sunk cost. It's a terminology in performance management. You have to mention it. Don't call it past cost. Call it sunk cost. The cost of material A of 40,000 naira is a sunk cost, and therefore ignore in the calculation. We did not use it. Ignore in the calculation. The only relevant cost, the only relevant cash flow, relating to material A is this disposal value. Is the disposal value of 17,500 naira, representing a saving to Ojuelegba. So you have to relate your assumption, you have to relate it with the question. Don't make it generic. Don't just cram and dump it for the examiner. You have to relate it with the question. All right? So Ojuelegba. Okay, so that's that. That is how we treated material A. All right, that's how we treated material A. If you like, you can comment on material B. If you like, you can ignore it, because material B of 80,000, that's the only number you have in the question. That's the only figure given to you, and that's the figure that you have used. So whether you comment on it or not, it doesn't change anything. All right, so for me, I will ignore comment on material B. So I'm done with the first paragraph. All right, then I'll move to the second paragraph. In this second paragraph, what assumption did you make? We are told in this second paragraph that direct labor cost of 60,000 naira relate to workers that will be transferred to this project from another project. Extra labor will need to be recruited to the other project at a cost of 70,000. So let's talk about that. Direct labor cost. Okay. Direct labor cost. The labor cost of 60,000 naira for workers that will be transferred to execute project X is irrelevant. Why is it not relevant? It's irrelevant because you can't just say it's irrelevant. You have to tell us why. Because the cost will be incurred irrespective of the decision taken on project X. So whether the company execute project X or not, that 60,000 naira must be paid to the workers, because that's what company currently pay to those workers. So the only relevant cost The only relevant cost, the only relevant cost is the recruitment cost, cost of 70,000 naira for workers, okay, that we replace the assisting staff. All right. So that's that. Next item that will be transferred. Okay. Number 3. We go back again. You are going to be picking additional information by additional information. The third additional information is supervision. So what assumption did you make here? Supervision cost has been charged to the project on the basis of 33 1/3 of labor cost and will be carried out by assisting staff with their normal duty. And we said the supervision cost is 20,000 naira. So I will then come here, supervision. The supervision cost. The supervision cost of 20,000 naira is irrelevant because the supervisor will be paid irrespective, will be paid whether or not the project is undertaken. All right, so that's why it is not relevant. It's not relevant. Okay, next item, overheads. We also said that overhead have been charged to the project at the rate of 200% on direct labor. Okay, overheads. Overheads. You see the way we are doing it, that's what is expected of you. This is not relevant. This is not relevant to the calculation. This is not relevant to the calculation. Okay. Since it is not, since the overhead is not splitted, into variable, okay, or fixed. All right. So it is assumed, therefore, it is assumed that the overheads of, how much is the overhead? 120,000. It is assumed that the overhead of 120,000 naira is a general overhead. It's a general overhead. So if examiner differentiates this overhead into fixed and variable, only the variable overhead you are going to consider. The fixed is irrelevant. But because it is not splitted, it is not differentiated, all right? So that's why we are treating it as general overhead. Okay? Are you saying splitted is not correct? Are you Sabi?
Split.
Okay. There's nothing like splitted, Abby. I hear
Yes.
you. You know, say we no go grammar school. All right. So next, number 5. The fifth paragraph is this one here. In this paragraph, we are told that the company is currently operating at a point above break-even point. The project will need the utilization of machinery that will have no other use of the company after the project has finished. The machinery will have to be purchased at the cost of 100,000 naira and then disposed of for 52,500 at the end of the project. So how do we treat that information? Machinery. This may be the last one. Machinery. So our assumption is that let's put it this way, the only relevant cost associated with the machine utilization, is the net purchase price of 47,500 naira, representing the difference between the purchase cost of 100,000 naira. Okay, purchase cost of 100,000 naira and the disposal value of 52,500 naira. That's it. I think that's the last one. The other one is, the last paragraph is not related to our calculation. So this last paragraph, you are going to need it when you want to write your report. You are told that the company tells you that the overseas customer is prepared to pay up to a maximum of 300,000 naira for the project, and a competitor is prepared to accept the other price, at that price. It also informs you the minimum it can charge is 400,000, as the above shows 320,000, and this does not take into consideration the cost of machine and profit to be taken on the project. So this information, this last paragraph, will be needed when you want to write your report. All right. So this is all you need to do for you to be able to earn your full mark. However, when you are writing when you are stating your assumptions, don't go and be cramming it. It's the way you understand it, you are going to put it down. However, the information you need to write to state your assumption are already there in the question. Just demonstrate for examiner, show to the examiner that, okay, how you have arrived at your numbers. That's all the examiner is asking you. All right. Don't go and be fabricating it. What you don't have in the question, don't bring it in as your assumption. Yes, Anson, talk to me.
Yeah, yes, sir. Assumption number 4.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is assumed that the overheads of is also be that one that, not two that.
Yeah, you're correct. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Okay. Yes. So this is where we are going to call it today. Let me see. Oh, send me a chat. Your eyes are heavy. Infinix, your own. Today is Friday now, so yeah, tomorrow you relax. That is if equity will allow you to relax. Okay, even me too. I've been awake since only God knows where, since morning earlier today, since around after 3 a.m. and I've not closed my eyes since. Okay, so let me know if you have any question for me so that we can close the class. So this is where we are going to call it a day. Let me see those of you that are still here. I can't call everybody, there are many. But in any case, since there is no further question, I want to say thank you to every one of you. I appreciate that you waited behind to the last minute, particularly for the fact that I've used 15 minutes extra time. Okay, sorry about that, and it's for the good of you and for myself as well. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I will see you next time by the grace of God. All right, when we shall continue, we are going to complete this question, then we are going to solve additional 2 illustrations, latest question on relevant costing. All right, so I need you to go ahead now that you have tested how questions are being treated on relevant costing. I need you to go ahead in the learning material that you have with you, go and test. All right, go and test the questions, go and solve them on your own, so that by the time we begin to do the calculations, so you'll be able to know you get it better. All right, so thank you once again. I will see you next time by the grace of God. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night, boss. God bless you, sir.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, sir. So let's have the class tomorrow.
Abina, we are used to it, so no worries.
So I hope we'll be getting the question on the platform.
I will share the question is already there in the material, but I will share the notes now.
All right, sir.
Sir, with this, there's no class tomorrow. There's no 7 o'clock class tomorrow, right?
Who told you that? There's class.
With you now, we have class with you tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, I know. First thing tomorrow morning, I have you, so no worries.
But that's going to be online. It's going to be online.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Sir, please, I'm just joining for the first time today. How can I get the material, please?
Are you on the subject group, on the PM group?
Yes, sir.
So you can request on that. Somebody will share with you. As I'm speaking to you, somebody will share.
All right, thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Okay.